Hello, hello. Hi there, sunshine. So, really wanted to make this video since it seems like it's a very hot topic, and I wanted to give you my take on it, not so much from psychological, but more from a spiritual perspective. And especially this idea was, in a way, inspired or triggered by a lot of content that is created, which of course then it reflects into conversations about what is a high value man and woman. So we're going to get analytical here today and give you the spiritual perspective on this topic. And also here explain or go more in depth about explaining what is a spiritual person, and then tie it into the high value concept. Okay, so let's first look at spiritual. What is a spiritual person and the false representations of spirituality? Oh, I'm excited about that. Okay, so I made these slides here just to keep myself on track, because I can get very easily swayed into a lot of information that's in my head. So let's first look at the difference between a spiritual and a material person, just so we can start understanding what each thing means. And then when we come across different dynamics, experience, or observations, to have a more of a grounded judgment or perception. So a spiritual person and a material person, the difference is determined by their core values. And the thing is, core values are things that are very difficult to get an understanding of when you meet somebody. Usually we need some time to get to know them, to understand what somebody values, because appearances and things that are represented on the outside can oftentimes create a false perception. So let's look at the values or the core values of a spiritual person and a material person. So the core values of a spiritual person are creation. And when we speak of high value, what is high? High is spirit. So excuse me for my Virgo meticulousness, but when we start analyzing these words in more depth and we start to think of what we associate with something that's of a high value is in creation. Technically, that's a person that has spiritual values at their core, versus somebody who is material, or I would call it low value, and not in the sense that it doesn't have any value, but that it's low, it's grounded, it's earthly. It only exists within a time frame. It doesn't extend beyond that. When we speak about high value, these are values that live beyond the time span and lifetime that we are here. So in terms of looking at somebody who is more materially oriented, and I would consider that of a low value, it's somebody who values possessions. So the core basis of this person's value are possessions, where the core basis of a spiritual person's value are or is creation. So what one drives his or her pleasure and meaning in life is centered around your own personal values. If we start here diving more into observational patterns, you're going to notice that spiritual people are usually people that embrace chaos. These are the type of people that do not avoid pain. It doesn't mean they're comfortable with it or they love it. It's just they learn how to embrace it because they understand that it's a normal part of the process of creation. When there is creation, you cannot predict what's going to happen next. So when you enter that place of the unknown, it does require a degree of courage and bravery in facing the pain that comes and through that process, the pain that comes with the unpredictable situations and new direction that you are going into. Whereas a materially oriented person, they prioritize comfort. They usually try to avoid situations that are unpredictable, unknown, because they have the potential to arise uncomfortable emotions that usually somebody who is materially oriented tries to avoid. They try to avoid a feeling pain and trusting and release their control. That's why we can say they like to control the environment and their emotions so they can avoid any type of discomfort. And emotions, they bring discomfort. But first, let's look at something that I feel like there is a huge misconception out there of what is a spiritual person. There is a lot of misrepresentation of a spiritual person also. And what is first, let's look at what is not spiritual. And I use these images of dirty and smelly socks. Yes. Spiritual is not somebody who lacks in hygiene, negligence of their physical body, because the physical body, it contains our spirit. And sometimes there is this representation, which is an illusion of a spiritual person who is very, again, negligent of their outer appearance, of their body, of their physical container. But they sort of have this presentation of eternal Om and seem on the outside like they're so calm and peaceful. But oftentimes it's also a mask and avoidance of painful or really feeling painful human emotions. Because honestly, to get to that state and live it, especially in large cities, I would not say that's very likely. Very few of us live on the Himalayas and can devote our entire life on such a high level spiritual pursuit to be experiencing and not being influenced by our environment, that we can sustain that constant state of Om and peace. And many times, like I said, when you start getting close to such people, you can also notice that Om state or representation is a mask for a lot of unresolved inner conflict. And another way you can recognize this is when such people, they can end up being very nice. Usually we call them the goody-goody, because being nice but also being unable to confront wrongdoings and asserting yourself and your needs and tolerating a lot of times even mistreatment, that is not spiritual. Again, behind this mask of overly nice and goody-goody, there is a lot of fear that hasn't been integrated. And the fourth point here is avoidance of material reality and the need to pay bills and have clean or adequate living standards. We're all human beings, and if you're spiritual, it doesn't mean you need to live on a tent or somewhere in the forest like a primal living being, because that's also an avoidance of the evolution part of humanity. So for the most part, when you see somebody who is spiritual, but they're living, for the most part, I mean, there are people that I know that are healers, they're highly spiritual people, and usually a lot of healers, they go through very difficult circumstances in their life. So it's possible that there are periods of time that you go through these changes, so there is no living comfort. But if this is sort of like also the idea that you create, like, I don't need money, I'll just live on a tent and that's okay with me. Again, there is some fear of confronting the material reality and taking responsibility for that. But now let's look at what is spiritual. Someone who showers, who is clean and smells good and takes care of their physical container. Because when we think about the spirit, again, we come back to the same idea, or high value. It's something that's inviting, that's protective. Imagine the spirit like the sun. The sun attracts. It's warm and it's inviting and it attracts attention. So if somebody reeks like dirty socks, that does not attract a lot of attention, and it definitely does not feel very inviting. And for the most part, most people can definitely take a shower and maintain a level of physical hygiene. I can tell you from personal experience, yes, maybe because I'm a Virgo, but I've had a lot of changes of living arrangements and circumstances in my life where I've been in situations where for days I didn't have an actual place where I can stay, but there are gym memberships for $20 and you can definitely go and use the showers there. So there's always a way, if there is a will, to find a way to physically maintain your hygiene and take care of yourself. Also, what is spiritual? When you're spiritual, you don't avoid emotions. You actually welcome them, because truth lies behind feelings and emotions. So you allow yourself, and you can feel anger, and you can feel pain, and you can feel sadness, and you can feel desires. But the difference is you learn how to communicate them. You learn how to verbalize them, because you already have that awareness that right now you're a human being with consciousness, so we don't have to react on them. We can learn how to integrate them by expressing them either through art or communication. Also, when you're spiritual, you can politely say to someone that they're an idiot without actually calling them an idiot. And you can learn to articulate and defend truth and what is right, and choose a side when someone is manipulative and abusive. Because at the highest form, a spiritual person is somebody who defends the truth. And when you defend the truth, you need to have the courage to say, fuck off, and stand up for respecting yourself, or defending those who are unable to do it for themselves. Or let's say in the case where you have children and they are not in the position where they can defend themselves. If you are not able to take a stand, especially in the cases where there are wrongdoings, that's just being ignorant to a situation. And when you're ignorant, there is nothing spiritual about that. Also, when you're spiritual, you can ask for your work to be paid because you value your time, and you do want and need financial stability and security that meets your physical needs. Like I said, these are human basic rights. If we look at Maslow's hierarchy, all of our basic need is to have some level of physical stability and comfort. Not luxury, that's difference, comfort. That we have a shelter over our head and we have a food on the table. Because just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you are a savior and you're here to freely service everyone. And even if you do, then you're still sponsored to have those physical needs met. So then you have the energy to devote yourself to others, but not live in poverty, because when your container is empty, there is absolutely nothing you can give of value to others. Remember, fill your cup first, put your own oxygen mask first before you're able to help somebody else. And in its highest form, spiritual is feeling happy and at peace within, with all, when you allow what is right and stand up for what is wrong for you. This is why we call it a spiritual warrior. And a warrior is somebody who is active. So a spiritual person is somebody who is not just but actively goes and defends what is true and what is right. And now let's look at this concept of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. What does that do? Awareness and enlightenment helps one move from, as I said previously, from reacting to responding, from physically fighting to verbally being able to articulate and take a stand. So when you see somebody who is extremely reactive and they find it very difficult to verbalize and articulate their emotions and thoughts, that person is not, we cannot call people stupid. That's somebody who has not gotten to that point of self-awareness. And so we are here, those that are more aware of that, to help them come to that awareness of what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and learn how to express them, learn how to articulate themselves. Because once you're able to integrate your thoughts and emotions, you can then respond in a situation and not continue reacting to things in your life. Again, moving from primitive urges controlling you to have consciousness and control over your primal urges and desires. This is also, we're going to tie in one of the points when we speak about somebody of high value. And one thing to remember here is that you are not a saint nor a savior, and you are simply aware of how destructive and dark you can be, but still choose people and situations that reflect the lightness and creative side of you, because you're aware of your own will or your own ability to choose. We cannot speak about somebody being good or spiritual if they have no awareness or concept of how bad and destructive they can be. We as humans, we all carry a good side to us or light, but we also carry a very bad and dark side to us. And many times when we feel shame and we fear it, we end up hiding it, and we create this representation that we're too goody-goody and nice. Nobody is too goody-goody and nice. If we were at that place where we're perfect, and trust me, I wish that was the case, then we would not be reincarnated here on earth, and we would be angels. And look at my attempt to embody that by wearing white. Anyhow, let's move on here. Speaking about awakening, awakened doesn't mean you are pure light, but you have your darkness and shadow integrated as part of yourself. And you choose, again, this is the conscious awareness of free will, you choose to move towards lightness. Because if you don't know the human side of you and how destructive you can be, how much harm and pain you can cause someone, then you cannot love. Because to love someone, we first need to be aware of how much we can truly hurt them. Again, love comes with the awareness of your own choice, because to love somebody, it's in our own choice, because we are aware of the contribution and impact we have on them through the choices that we make. Again, more on the whole concept of awakening and enlightenment. We live in a dual reality. We have sun and moon, we have day and night, we have light and dark. So if in your own perception you're just light and you're right, then what you are is you are delusional. Same as if you're just bad and dark and horrible. You simply then lack integration. Because awakening, it doesn't mean the avoidance of one or the other and just having that perception of being one thing. No, we're both. You know how you can be destructive to self and others. So you make then choices in your actions, your interactions and communications that are done from a place of create or contribute rather than control. Because the one who gains respect and is trustworthy is actually one who is first able to control themselves, their own thoughts and emotions, and not out of fear exert that control on the outside. Because what's on the outside, it's visible, it's light, we see other people, we see things around us, but what we don't see is what's inside of us. And there is more permanence and power in the dark than in the light. So if we're speaking about high value, permanence, awareness, it comes from, first of all, being aware of that dark or hidden parts of ourselves inside. And dark is not necessarily bad or fearful. Actually, darkness helps to reflect internally, to transform, to see the light it is, because it is the place to awaken. If we cannot reflect and go inside of us, then we cannot awaken to anything. Then we live with the illusionary perception that we know everything and we're already awakened to everything. And trust me, sometimes I can also, and I catch myself fall in that category where I would think I have already like this very deep and profound awareness to things, and I do. But life likes to surprise me and show me that there is still a lot more for me to learn and a lot for me to go. And I know that until the last day I'm on earth, I'm definitely not going to know everything and I'm definitely not going to learn everything. But there is just a part of me, my Virgo side, that wants to have the perfect knowledge, and all the knowledge just is not possible. So that I catch my illusionary thoughts and I'm like, okay, chill. And as I said, without facing darkness, there is no awakening, including your own fantasies, dark thoughts, obsessions, addictions, pains, fears, and so on. And here, just to mention, when I say addictions, everybody has addictions. Addictions are not just to drugs. They can be, or to, let's say, pornography. There can be different types of addictions. Like I could be addicted to wake up at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I have struggled with that. So we can all have different variances of addiction, because only through the awareness of our own darkness, we can awaken to our own strength, and that we actually have a free will, because you cannot see light or freedom without recognizing what are the chains still holding you down. And I don't know if you can fully see on the screen, but if we look at that little chart between love on one side and then there is fear on the other side, and in between we have a black space, and then there is light casted in between love and fear. But in order for us to move from fear to love and see that light, there is a period we need to go through in that process, and that period is called chaos. As a law of creation, we cannot create something before we destroy something that is illusion or not true. And the truth is that no one is purely loving. As for love, one needs to move the fear, go through the darkness and see the light. And your choice to love, that again, love is not something that you need to wait or somebody's going to give it to you, but it's a choice that comes from the inside that you make when you're willing to recognize your own free will and truth. Again, that love is not an extension of someone else, but rather you're in your own free will. That's where it starts. Because you can have a bunch of people that love you, but if you're not able to recognize it within you and what it is and what feels right and true, you are not even going to accept that. And here's where is the fun part, because when you are in that process of darkness, there is no predictability, there is no knowing, because the only thing that can bring you to see that light is trust. And imagine trusting in a pitch black hole where you have no reason, you have no visible reason to trust. It simply comes down to a choice from the inside you make. And if you don't make that choice to continue your journey and trust what's unknown and visible, then you get pulled back and become stuck again in that fear. Okay, and now let's look at materialism or materialistic people. You can recognize them by them prioritizing and valuing only what, or mostly, but usually only what is tangible, what is seen and is material, like money, appearance, possessions, comfort, food, easy and pleasurable experiences. And also easy and pleasurable emotions like because they dislike handling emotionally complex dynamics and processing. And what is easy, or how can I say it? It's not easy, but more comfortable. It's more comfortable to have possessions that give you a sense of safety rather than education. So you are going to recognize by materially people, they usually value and focus more on appearance and possessing things, and rarely invest in education that is necessary as part of your spiritual growth journey, because it requires learning, testing, risking, integrating, When you are in this process of chaos and the unknown, you meet with a lot of new challenges that you haven't faced before. So, in order for you to navigate through them, you need to be open to learn, because there is no other way for you to know everything. All of this unpredictability and unknownness is asking you to stay open and learn. But also, one very important point to make here is that you're going to recognize materially focused people by how they feel, because despite all the possessions they have, they never feel like enough, or they have enough, or there is enough, or them themselves are even enough to be satisfied. There's always an inner part of them that feels insecure or lacking, because that inner safety, again, is very highly dependent on external things or possessions. It doesn't come from an inside security and ability and trust for creation. And to add on here, materially focused people, they seek for instant gratification and finding joy through acquiring or acquisitions rather than in personal contributions and growth. And they prioritize comfort and safety rather than unpredictability, chaos, and the unknown aspects of life and relationships, which, yes, it does require investment, and not just material, but investment of your own personal resources like time, emotions, energy, because again, their focus is more on gain rather than investment. So when a person feels like the only thing they can contribute in a relationship is, or if they usually, the interesting thing is in relationships, it becomes projected. When they constantly approach relationships with the whole idea that somebody's there to use them for their money, or unless somebody contributes money into the relationship, then it's harder for them to see the concept of what is there more to it than just that physical aspect and appearance, and also, yes, material aspect to it. And I say this, it becomes a projection and may think that the other person is with them, let's say, only for the money, because themselves don't feel or are not even aware of what else they can personally also contribute, or even how to do it, or what is needed, or what is required in a relationship. That is not just about financial matters. Yes, that's one part of it. And with financial matters, I also mean everything that's physical, including sex. But in terms of building a relationship, it requires time. If we speak about different resources, emotions, energy, so there is a lot more investment. But when you're not connected to that, and when you avoid the discomfort it comes with experiencing those things, then your perceptions, expectations, the value and the significance for you drops just to material and physical level. And then what happens is they approach different interactions and relationships from a place focusing on what can I get out of this experience, or for a specific amount of time out of it, more than what can I give and contribute, and do I even want to give and contribute here? Because like I said, when you love, you just have that natural instinct and desire to give and to contribute. Of course, you don't want to be abused, so then you end up protecting yourself, but ultimately your intention is not to get something out of it, but your intention is to give. And how do we find balance between the spiritual and this material reality? Because yes, for some, I would say very few people, they find the balance in their own lives between their spiritual essence and material physical existence. For most people, yes, this becomes a challenge. What's easier is that when you're in a relationship, and oftentimes what happens, one person is more spiritually oriented and the other person is more material. And this can work when both people are aware, because the materially oriented person can support and give more financial stability and grounding for the spiritually oriented person, whereas the materially oriented person the spiritual person can help them gain more insights and faith and inspiration for their own growth and finding the balance within them. So in partnerships, that's much easier achieved. But again, without awareness to where you stand, it becomes more challenging. Because essentially, when somebody is more spiritually oriented, and by spiritual also mean you can see this with a lot of artistic people, since they're very creative and a lot of times they live in more chaos, they do need more grounding in practical physical reality by, again, valuing their bodies, hygiene, even having the physical and the material ability to take care of those needs, to ensure that they have some level of physical comfort, and then have more time open for creativity. Because eventually, as much as you can embrace chaos at some point, it is also very energetically consuming. So you can continue to create and move through chaos. It is good when you have a partner who is more materially oriented to support you and not get to the point of being emotionally avoidant and just go haywire. Because, like I said, being in constant changing chaos can also be very tiring to the physical body. Whereas materially focused people need to invest in spiritual teachings, teachers, or artists, even, or sponsor them for their time, for their work, for their energy to find satisfaction, meaning, and purpose in their comfortable routine. And that's the truth about life. Some people create art and others are here to consume it. There is nothing wrong with that as long as there is an equal exchange of energy. You cannot just consume, and be entertained without paying for it and supporting that. Because time is valuable when it is invested in growing in peace, where the physical needs are met, but spiritual learning and growth or creation is, again, at the foundation for comfort. Because we can think that we're comfortable, but when we internally feel constantly dissatisfied, then in truth, we're not comfortable, because we're dissatisfied on the inside. And no material possession or comfort is going to bring us to that place of finding peace and grounding. And now, if we're going to take this topic to the concept of high value people, here's some ways you can determine a high value person. And that's not by their possessions nor appearance. Because as we already spoke about this, everything that's on the outside cannot be a high or intrinsic value, because it's not permanent. As high value is dependent on the value one places through investing personal time or resources in spiritual, artistic pursuits, those that are driven by creation, or art, meaning beyond the comfort for yourself. These are intrinsic values, they're essential, where they come from a place of essence. Also, another way to recognize high value people, and again, high, I always have this image in my mind when I see high, something that is closer to universal truth than material, physical reality. So high value people, they have boundaries, they say no, and they invest their time in things and people that support growth, change, and creation. And when you see a high value person, they usually have a purpose, they have a vision, they want to create something. And because in order for them to stay in alignment with that energy, actually creating boundaries and saying no to what's not part of that vision becomes very easy. It doesn't come from a place of feeling like you're being self-restricted. Actually, no, when you say no to the wrong things, then you have the time and freedom and space to invest in what actually is inspiring you and what you actually enjoy. And what that creates energetically, it creates trust. High value people prioritize and are loyal to their vision as their drive and passion for life. And because they are loyal to their vision, this is also what they bring into relationships. They bring a vision. something you can do together, something you can create together, something you can build together. And that is valuable because when two people come together and they have no direction and no purpose, eventually, after the first stage of chemistry, everything falls apart. Yet here, I just want to mention about vision is it is important that both people have a shared vision, because when it's not shared, again, it becomes a path of division. High value people value growth and education, including integration of individual shadows and personal free will, because you understand that you cannot buy or own somebody, but you can express even your shadows and dark sides in your desires and what you want, as that allows the other into your space. Then you can create intimacy, and from a place of intimacy, trust, then you are able to create without going into the depths and seeing what's hidden again within yourself and then with another person. Then you just become stuck in the darkness. You cannot create or build anything from there. And I think, yes, this is the last slide. Let's look at some additional attributes to define what is a high value or high spirited person. As we already said, they can say no to what does not support their vision. They are committed and loyal to their purpose and vision, and they're passionate about it. And when somebody's passionate about their vision and what they want to create, that is attractive. Think again of the sun. If we're speaking about high value, the sun is one. It cannot be replaced. And it's attractive because it's warm and inviting, and it serves a purpose, because without it, there would be no life. So you can almost envision high value people as the sun. They're bright. And that brightness comes from their own passion for life. Also, high value people, they have self-discipline, including wellness choices they make for themselves, and also for their emotional and physical health. And those wellness choices are not inspired by some fad or popular diet trends. They are inspired and driven by how they want to feel and the vision that they want to accomplish. You would recognize high value person, and that would be the difference. It's an inner discipline that you create. You don't have to be forced to change anything about you or your habits. You have the desire to create a certain structure around your day, around how you take care of your body, around what foods you eat, because you are inspired to build and bring to life that vision. So you prioritize your health so you can have the necessary energy and physical strength and the container and the emotional stability in order for you to build what you want to experience and manifest in life. Also, another attribute to a high value person is somebody who can make decisions. And decisions are not difficult to make when you have the self-awareness and you have principles and boundaries around your truth, around who you are, because only then you are free of external validation of who you are and how you're supposed to act and how you're supposed to be. So when you know who you are, it's easy for you to create certain boundaries to protect that sense of self, and everything that's not right for you, it's easy for you to say no. And then when it comes down to decision, you apply the same principle. So the ability to make decisions comes from the confidence and the awareness of being yourself. Again, that's something I can consider to be of a high value. And I'm not speaking here about decisions like what I'm going to have today for lunch or for dinner. Speaking about decisions, especially those that require some degree of risk or courage, and decisions that are rooted in a trust, because sometimes you don't have all the facts on the table. Risky, unpredictable, or urgent even. And to have that sense of certainty, even if something goes wrong, that you would know how to handle it and even handle yourself, it comes from a place of self-awareness. And that also ties into the next point about self-sufficiency. That is a reflection of confidence that comes from inner faith in your own beliefs rather than projections of external opinions, validation, and rules. And I think here the best way to summarize it, a high value person, his sense of self, his visions, his goals, his decisions are not reflective of external things. They're not reflective of money, of possessions, of opinions, of others' beliefs. They come from an inner place of trust and knowing of themselves, and a place of inner peace. Another attribute of a high value person is somebody who can confront unfair situations and assert his personal or her personal wants and boundaries. A person, again, who plays it safe and does not express what they want, it comes from a place of not knowing, because you're still confused about who you truly are, where you're going, and what you want. When you have gotten to the place of really understanding and investing in yourself, again, that doesn't come from just being comfortable. That's a process. That's why I say it's high value, because your motivation and your investment is really to confront these shadows, these challenging parts of yourself. Then when you have that awareness, then it's easy for you to confront unfair situations. It's easy for you to take a stand. It's easy for you to be firm and decisive, because when you have that level of awareness, you no longer compromise with yourself. Because when you know who you are and what you can bring to the table, there is just no way you can compromise. You complement a relationship, or you complement even a business partnership. You complement with your truth. You bring into the table your own abilities, personal strengths, your good qualities that can impact that dynamic in a positive way. And then from this place, you can also make choices that you don't bring your shit to the table. Even if you do, again, you're not compromising, but you have the awareness of exactly how you are impacting and contributing to a specific dynamic. Also, high value people, their outlook and mental perception is rooted in trust and faith rather than being cynical or having a cautious and degrading outlook on life. Yes, here I just want to make the difference. You can have be a critical thinker, and you can be critical and still see opportunities rather than completely disregard and resist them. And it's good somebody to have a critical mind and analyze what information is true and it's possibly not true, but you're still open before rushing to conclusions or even think that you know everything, to take a step back, look at all of the information in a critical way, but for your mind to stay open and flexible enough, if there is some opportunities or if there is some truth, for you to be able to recognize it. Usually somebody who has a very cynical and dismissive outlook on life and is very resistant to information and very mistrustful, they have this perception from a place of inner uncertainty and fear. So the way you can recognize a high value person by their beliefs or outlook on life is how much they trust and have faith in things that are sometimes don't have a rational explanations and are not factually based. For example, last but definitely not least, another attribute of a high value person is somebody who is humorous and has the ability to be lighthearted, especially in difficult situations, because that's something that we can learn, and usually we learn when we go through a lot of challenges in life, and some point we see that, being a Debbie Downer really doesn't do much. So we try to maintain or find some hope or optimism, and not in a delusional way, but in a way that, at the end of the day, we all have our own set of challenges, but we all came here to enjoy life, and everybody carries their own pain. But we cannot find the joy if we're just here like a virus spreading each other's pain. So a person that's able, especially in difficult situations, to embrace humor, that's an extremely high value quality, because that person has come to the awareness and realized that joy is comes from within. So when their joy or source of joy is driven internally, that's probably one of the main attributes I would consider for somebody to be of high value, because your source of joy is not in somebody giving you desires, it's not in somebody or you owning something or looking a certain way. Your source of joy always lives inside, and you can always return to it. And when you know that you can always return to it, you can always make the choice of giving that or contributing with that in any situation, and make decisions from that place, from a place of prioritizing your inner happiness and peace. Because again, what you're able to give yourself, that's what you're able to give and extend in any other relationship, dynamic, or situation. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe, like, and share. And I would like to get your thoughts and feedback on it in the comments below. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.